Hey guys, this is SanchoWest and welcome to my spoiler-filled review for Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Before we begin, I'd like to thank PlayStation for sending me an early copy of this game for review purposes. And I want to stress to you guys watching right now, it's going to be crazy spoiler-filled, so if you don't want anything spoiled, click away, but come back and watch after you've beaten the game of Uncharted Lost Legacy. Most of my criticisms were embargoed due to the fact that it goes over a lot of the plot lines and a lot of surprises, and Naughty Dog didn't want that thing spoiled for you. So here we go, and again, spoiler filled, and basically this is going to be more conversational type of review versus the scripted one that's in the link down below. If you want to check that out, I did a scripted one that does not go over these points, and I think these are the most criticizing things I have for the game, because it could go from easily a great title to a legendary title if it just addressed these things. And I honestly believe that the pacing of the game and the short attempts of 10 hours of the game that you could take to beat is sacrifices some of the things that just need a little bit more time to breathe, or a little bit more explanation, or a little bit more backstory, rather than a couple of lines or the thing. And a lot of the weight of the emotion in this game does not hit those emotional high points that other Uncharted or other Naughty Dog games like The Last of Us hit, and a lot of it is on the shoulders of the performances from Claudia Black and Laura Bailey, and they did a great job, but I just think they also need a little bit help structure-wise from the game itself. So again, you already had your warning. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the three things, or a couple of things that I had some issues with, and we're about to get into spoiler heavy territory. The first things I want to talk about is the character development of Nadine and Asav. Now, Nadine has had 2 games to explore her character, to understand who she is, and I still feel that it's just now she's 1.5 dimensional. Now we know that she's jokey, now we know that she has some sense of humor, but she's still very militant. And the thing is that kind of bothered me is her turn in the story. The character arc is not that, it doesn't go it's just still plateau. There's no really an arc to it, and her turns are very weird. Throughout the whole entire game, we're wanting that she wants Shoreline back. She wants Shoreline back. Great, that's fine. I understand that that's what you want, because you feel like that's a part of you, that's part of your character, that's part of your family heritage, that's who you grew up with, that's who you think you are, that's your identity. But then, all of a sudden, when it gets past that point, she just says, I don't want it anymore. And it's really not, the payoff's not really not there. And then at that same time, when she feels that she gets betrayed by Chloe, when she abandons Chloe for not telling her about Sam Drake being involved into the heist, all of a sudden she's just like, I don't want to be with you. And then literally there is a arena moment, a stealth encounter. Then after that, she's like, fine, I'll deal with you. And it just, I know they're trying to build a tension, but normally I would think that if this game had more time, you would at least have some sort of a she got captured moment. Chloe has to go save her, and then Nadine is indebted to her for saving her life, and they become closer friends. I feel like that moment right there needed to be a little bit stronger to show that I really wanted to see what would happen when Chloe's by herself. And I feel like the developers were talking about, in a lot of interviews, were saying we wanted to see what happens when Chloe's up against the wall. Does she run? And this was a more personal moment where she is abandoned and she's by herself, and it just has a one rainy sequence to determine that. And then after that, she gets Nadine back and is right back into the adventure. But back to Nadine herself, like I said, there's really not that many of those moments where we get to understand where she's from, her background. We really get to explore Chloe's background, but knowing that Nadine's part of this adventure, I feel like she has two games basically to get to know her a little bit better. And we barely scratched the surface with Nadine, besides some of the her character aspects. We still don't know about her past. We don't know her father. We don't know her relationships with her father. We can only make assumptions. The other character development that I wasn't really too awesome about was Asav himself. Now, Asav's performances by Usman Ali is amazing. He's really good. He's very menacing, as I said. He's very cold and calculated. However, he goes from this very controlled man who knows everything, and he's in control of the situation. His belief is that he wants to basically make a sacrifice of a lot of the civilian lives, or he wants to make these kind of sacrifices so that people could get in shape and get in line and be a stronger nation. He really believes in the Hoysala way, the old Indian way, basically. And then this young king shows up and says about mercy and sacrifice and all these kinds of things, and it ruins all that. And he wants to go back to before that. So that's his motive, right? That's what he wants to do. That's his MO. And all of a sudden, I think what ends up happening in a lot of Uncharted games that we do not see what's behind the scenes of the villain, because the best villains are the ones you sympathize, right? The ones you think like, you know what, they are kind of right. I think that if we would have had some scenes of what was happening on India, some maybe understanding like the struggle, why the insurgents are fighting a little bit more, because right now they're just like, we're after the Tusk because it's wanted, it's a great thing for our people, it's this and that, right? So we're getting all those kinds of things happening from the insurgents, and Asav is talking like on a higher level, but we don't understand what's happening in India because we kind of like glossed right over that at the beginning of the chapter of the game itself. And so when we're sitting there and we're like, okay, Asav, this is what you want to do, and like I was saying, we don't understand the villain's viewpoint. I think that if we have a cutscene or something to show on the villain sides, because all the cutscenes in this game is what Chloe sees. So if maybe it went meanwhile in Asav's headquarters, something like that, to get to understand what's going with Asav. Maybe he has a moment with the local, he's like helping them out to show that he has a sympathetic, a soft side, so to speak, in the way that he's a man of his people, right? And so when the turn happens for him, when all of a sudden he sells the Tusk of Ganesh to Orca, the shoreline mercenary, for a bomb to go set it off like Liam Neeson style in Batman Begins, to go blow up the city to create civil war, a little bit more unrest. It's just like now he just becomes, his power just decreases immediately, and he just becomes a madman, a lunatic. Whereas before he actually had something going for him. And I think that when he all of a sudden he gets the Wraith hair, that's when he loses all that thing and he just becomes a boss, video game boss versus a character. But other than that, his performance was really solid. Now, the things that I want to talk about regarding the plot is regarding payoffs. Payoffs are very important in all stories. They have a setup, and then they have the build up to it, and then they have the payoff. And I think that Uncharted Lost Legacy payoffs really don't land in the most important ways. The two payoffs that come to mind the most are the token of Ganesh, her father, and the actual Tusk of Ganesh, the actual moment of capturing it. Now, before I get into those things, let's talk about Chloe's dad. So Chloe's dad is omnipresent throughout this entire game. Chloe keeps mentioning her father. She's reminiscing about her father. She says, this, my father would love this. My father is this kind of person. But the thing is, like, it's just as simple as showing me what her father looks like, who he is, maybe a cutscene of Chloe as a baby, a photograph, something to give me an emotional attachment rather than saying a father to daughter relationship, if that makes sense. And I think that that's where Naughty Dog missed the point on that. Like, I did not get an emotional connection to her father, because she often said like things about her father that are, that are not very fatherly like, and that he abandoned her and then he did the right thing, those kinds of things. But the moment where we get to why the token of Ganesh is so important, she's carried this thing throughout the entire game. We see it in the beginning, we see it in the riverboat, we see it everywhere. She plays with it, it's her stress thing, right? It's all over the game itself.
Wow, did you hear that, Dad? Did get something from you after all.
What happened with your father?
He was the guy that couldn't walk away. The Ministry of Culture offered to finance one more of his expeditions, because this time he said he was onto something big. He was always onto something big. But bandits raided his camp, and local authorities found him weeks later. And this stupid thing is all I have left of him.
I'm sorry.
Oh, hey. He certainly made his choice.
The moment we have it, we understand. She gets that beautiful moment that her father was there, standing there with all the other tokens, and there's one missing, and that he sent it to her, and this was part of her destiny. All those awesome things are happening right there and then there. But I just feel like that moment doesn't land. It doesn't hit. I don't know what it is. It's just like the token is like, oh, my father was here. That's it. Maybe we get like a scene, a cutscene of the father actually there. We see him. Maybe it's just a ghost of him or something to signify that it's actually there versus just a line. Because the reason why I just did not feel it didn't land like strong enough, like it was building up to. And I think that the moment as well is that she takes the token with her and she moves on. And I really thought that she would leave it there to show that in order to move on in her life, she needs to leave behind part of the past. And that's what I felt like. Why did she take it and move on? It felt like it was a part of the puzzle.
Dad was here. Something big, all right. Why didn't that stupid bastard tell me?
You said it yourself. He wanted to keep you safe.
I can't let Asav get that tusk.
No. No, we can't.
Thank you.
Thank me after we get out of this alive.
Fair point.
Don't forget Ganesh.
Oh. Glad I brought this.
And that moment right there, it felt like it didn't have any kind of growth into that. And again, I'm just talking about from my experience, so nothing against the writing or anything like that. It just felt like that moment should have been bigger. There's something should have been stronger, and it just, I don't know. It just felt like it was just a more sad moment than a more stronger depressing moment, so to speak, in that, or beautiful moment, or maybe like the sun comes out and flowers come down, or something like that, just to signify the beauty and the peace of life coming and going in that moment, the moment of destiny. And then that's what was really that I was like, I just wanted more from that moment. The other thing is the actual reveal of the actual grabbing of the tusk of Ganesh. Now, the tusk of Ganesh is this really awesome moment where you get these cool things, and then but the problem is the whole moment is ruined because the whole tale as Parashurama hurts Ganesh, and that the whole reveal is that Ganesh accepted it, that Ganesh is so powerful enough that he could definitely stop the axe, but he did it. And he let it happen, and he let the tusk hit him, and he put his arms down, which is the kind of cool moment because, studying the Hindu mythology in preparation for this game, you kind of get that it's just a kind of a tale of, teaching kids about, siblings or all those kinds of things, Parashurama and Ganesh, all those kinds of things. Like it's more of a symbolic thing in that aspect of teaching morals, but you never put that in your mind that Ganesh let him do that. And that was a nice reveal, but it was kind of like all muddled because you have Asav there, you have Sam there, and everybody's in cuffs, and Asav's threatening you with a gun, and there's a puzzle that happens right there, and it just feels like, I know they wanted to add the tension of doing a puzzle while your friend has a gun to their head type vibe, but it just ruins that explanation because she kind of teaches Asav this moment, and then before you know it, the action's picked up and you're moved on from it. And again, I like those moments that where Nathan Drake, when he finds a treasure, he has that revelation himself, and you kind of, as the audience member, you sit with it instead of all of a sudden, I got to do this puzzle. You do the puzzle, the revelation happens, and then boom, you're already off to the races because the whole place is flooded. And it's just like, I understand that maybe they didn't have time to go on through that thing, but I just feel like that moment, there's certain moments that did not need to be rushed, and that was one of the moments that did not need to be rushed. Because I always feel like the cheating part of this whole thing is that you go through a Naughty Dog Uncharted game, you find the treasure, you're like literally going from point to point looking for this treasure, and then the moment you find the treasure, you find out that the treasure is not that important because it's X. And I feel like that's fine and all, long as the transition from not that important to the X moment needs to be a little bit more, a little bit more stronger, and give that a little moment to breathe instead of just railroading past it, lack of a better word. So those are the things that I have issues with. There's a little bit of character development issues. There's a little bit of story plot issues that don't land the hit. Now, the things that I couldn't talk about that I really did like in the review is the train sequence is pretty awesome. A lot of the gameplay wise of this game is all refined. Like Uncharted finally, Naughty Dog finally got it's running in stride with all its gameplay mechanics. We got the train, and the train's probably the most epic, known from Uncharted 2 train for Uncharted Lost Legacy train. Must be a huge difference. So that train sequence is kind of cool. I feel like some of the action highs of Uncharted 4, there's Uncharted 4 action highs, like that chasing in Madagascar, and then there's like Uncharted 2, and then it's like right there's Lost Legacy. It's like really close behind, and I did like how it handles that boss fight at the end. It's a natural boss fight versus like Uncharted 1's Navarro boss fight. You're just like, all right. So it's like they finally got the build up to a very nice boss fight, and it felt very cool. Granted, it was very Broken Arrow-y. John Travolta and Christian Slater. There's a bomb on a train, and then Christian Slater went to go stop John Travolta. I digress. But I really did like the third act of this game a lot, because like I said in the review, it finally hit this jazz note, like this. All the pieces were bopping and scatting all over at the same time, and the big piece was Samuel Drake, and that was really cool and awesome to see him. I didn't feel like I didn't need Nathan Drake. I feel like I didn't need Sully, because I think Drake fit that vibe, and he felt that, what I like to say is, he was the Drake legacy in this game. And having him around, making those off comments, commenting on what's happening in kind of like a chorus. He was like the gamer in us, making snarky comments about the game, about the characters. All that kind of stuff landed, and it hit really well. And him being around, and him being filling that young Sully role, worked really well. And I think that Troy Baker's performance fits really well with Claudia Black's performance and Laura Bailey's performance, and their chemistry from working together in various games, it shows right here. And I really like that moment. I just love that third act. I really do, and I'm looking forward to playing that again. So yeah, Sam Drake's a big plus. The train sequence is a big plus. All those things work for me. Some of the things that didn't work for me that may work for you are the token of Ganesh, the tusk of Ganesh. Those moments didn't land for me, and Nadine still doesn't have that nice arc right there. He's working on it, and of course that Asab's 180 abrupt turn to a cool villain to an annoying villain to a ranting lunatic villain. I don't understand why everyone just loses their cool in terms of the villains. It's like they just get so frustrated with them to that point. It's your fault, man. You should have why you gotta leave people to die? Yeah, that's the thing about villains, is they have no one but themselves to blame, because they try to be too cute about certain situations. But thank you guys for watching my conversational review, spoiler-filled review regarding Uncharted Lost Legacy. Tell me what you think down below. If you're in the comment section, know that this game may be spoiled for you, so be on the lookout for that. I really do appreciate it. On my channel, we got a Let's Play going through. The first half is already live. My first 5 episodes of playing my first run of Uncharted Lost Legacy is live. I'll put the playlist down below, and as well, the second half of that will be released Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Holy crap. All right, Nutty Dodge. Oh, you gave me this checkpoint. Thank you. Obviously, I was supposed to come this way.
NPCs are nothing, man. You know I play multiplayer.
I hope you guys check out those Let's Play series. They're quite hilarious. And again, thank you for everything you guys do. If you want to support the channel, like, share, subscribe, do all those fun things that you got to do as a viewer to help out your YouTuber that you want to support. I appreciate your time. Thank you, and as always, ooh yeah, peace. Adios, guys. Bye.